guy seems to have had more drugs inside him than you could get in a chemist shop. I find it very hard to believe.
You've got the title, the platform, and a golden ticket to the most exclusive club in the world, royalty. Outside it glitters, red carpets, charity galas, perfect portraits. Inside, the lights don't always warm the room. Tonight we peel back the satin curtain and step into a private storm. Pristine veneers, quiet rooms, and choice.
Lightness you're describing, Harry, is called being high. It brings new meaning to your highness.
And choices made in the dark. This is a story about a couple who built their lives on image and obligation, one selling a dream, the other wrestling with old ghosts that won't stay buried. It's about how crafted scarcity and curated smiles can hide something far messier, an addiction that creeps into corridors no PR team can reach, a partner wearing brave armor until it cracks, and a family balancing love against legacy. Listen close, because what we see on camera is only ever the beginning. The public knows Prince Harry by the photographs, medals on his chest, laughter in crowds, the carefully lit portraits that speak of duty and charm. But beyond the gates, there are nights the cameras never see. Nights when he doesn't come home until hours after the city has gone quiet. On those nights, the guards hear him before they see him. Footsteps uneven on the marble, a laugh that doesn't match the hour. His eyes carry a glassy shine, his words slur into each other like water spilling over stone. He's still wearing the grin from somewhere else, somewhere louder, somewhere that dulled the ache he carries. Addiction doesn't arrive in a blaze. For Harry, it creeps in like fog, turning late dinners into later nights, turning later nights into detours through places where no one asks questions, as long as you pay. By the time he walks back through the palace doors, the high still clings to him, a faint smell, a jitter in the hands, a rhythm in his step that feels both too fast and too slow. Inside, Meghan waits in the dim light, face set in the way someone's does when they've had this conversation too many times. She doesn't ask right away. She looks at him, really looks, and sees the man she married threaded through the man who just walked in. She knows the cycle. The apologies tomorrow, the promises that hold for a week, maybe two, before the pull begins again. The palace is still on the outside. Inside, there's a storm. And just beyond the gates, a tabloid van waits in the dark, the lens already aimed at the front door. After years of living in the royal spotlight, Prince Harry's history was no secret. The tabloids had feasted for years on his youthful scandals, from wild nights out in London clubs to whispers of drug use during his early 20s. Those headlines painted him as the rebellious prince, the one who couldn't quite fit into the pristine mold the monarchy demanded. When Meghan Markle entered his life, she was stepping into a world where every misstep, every past mistake, was magnified under a blinding spotlight. At first, many believed Meghan might help Harry leave that troubled image behind. She was a polished, confident actress who spoke about humanitarian causes, women's rights, and mental health. To some, she seemed like the perfect person to help him rewrite his public story. But the press was relentless. Old photos resurfaced, old interviews were replayed, and Harry's previous struggles with substance use were dragged into the present. For critics, Meghan's presence didn't erase the past. Instead, it became a fresh opportunity to question both of them. Was Meghan here to truly save the prince from his demons, or was she simply another chapter in a royal soap opera? Behind closed doors, their relationship was intense. Meghan reportedly encouraged Harry to focus on therapy, to speak openly about the pressures he faced growing up. In public, they presented a united front, the charming couple breaking royal traditions, speaking their truth, and refusing to play by the palace's rules. But that defiance came with a price. The media narrative shifted from Harry's old wild days to accusations that Meghan was changing him too much, pulling him away from his family, and turning the once rebellious prince into an outspoken critic of the institution he was born into. For Harry, it was a balancing act, confronting his past while fighting for a new future alongside Meghan. For Meghan, it was a crash course in surviving not just the royal family's expectations, but also the brutal court of public opinion. And with every headline, the world was left wondering, were they escaping a toxic system or creating a new storm of their own? As Harry's life with Meghan unfolded in the public eye, the cracks in their royal fairy tale began to widen. Behind the polished photographs and carefully crafted public statements, there was an undeniable tension, not just between the couple and the royal family, but within their own lives. The media storm was relentless, yet Meghan seemed to thrive in the spotlight, while Harry appeared increasingly withdrawn, a shadow of the carefree young prince the world once knew. Those close to the situation whispered about Harry's growing frustration, not only with the palace's strict protocols, but with how quickly his private life became global gossip. Every disagreement, every strained glance between him and Meghan was dissected by tabloids and online commentators. Some insiders claimed Harry was struggling to reconcile the man he wanted to be with the image Meghan wanted the world to see. The couple's high-profile interviews, including the now infamous sit-down with Oprah, only intensified the divide. While Meghan spoke boldly about her struggles and the alleged lack of support from the royals, Harry's demeanor revealed a mix of loyalty and discomfort. It was as though he was caught between defending his wife and protecting what remained of his ties to the monarchy. Meanwhile, the media frenzy took on a life of its own. Headlines speculated about secret rifts, unspoken grievances, and private arguments. And though both Harry and Meghan denied many of the rumors, the narrative was no longer in their control. To the public, they were either heroes standing up to an outdated institution, or opportunists capitalizing on royal drama. For Harry, the reality was far more personal. He had left behind his family, his homeland, and the only life he had ever known. In California, far from the palaces and protocol, he was supposed to find peace. But instead, he faced a new kind of battle, one where the cameras never stopped rolling and every choice he made was judged by a world that couldn't seem to look away. The fairy tale was gone. In its place stood a story far messier and far more human. In the final stretch of this story, the spotlight shifts to the growing gap between Prince Harry and the world he once belonged to. For years, he carried the title, the image, and the expectations that came with being a royal. But after stepping away from royal duties, life took a different turn, one marked by freedom, but also isolation. Harry and Meghan's journey started as a love story that promised change and modernity in the monarchy. But behind closed doors, their move to America brought new challenges. The couple faced public backlash, media scrutiny, and the constant need to prove themselves outside the royal bubble. For Harry, the adjustment was deeper. This was a man who had been raised in palaces, now living in a world where his royal badge no longer carried the same weight. Sources close to the couple suggest that the strain on their personal and professional lives has been mounting. Their media deals, while initially lucrative, have been under pressure. Public interest remains, but not always in the way they had hoped. Instead of being celebrated as changemakers, they often find themselves at the center of controversy. For Harry, the reality is even more personal. From his younger days, marked by rebellious choices and very public mistakes, to his present life as a husband and father, there's been a constant struggle to define who he truly is without the shadow of the crown. That journey has not been easy, and in recent years, it's been harder to control the narrative. As this chapter comes to a close, one thing is clear. The fairy tale is far more complex than anyone imagined. Public opinion is divided, but the story of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle continues to unfold, one decision at a time. The ending of this part isn't a full stop, it's just a pause before the next headline. And whether the next chapter is redemption, reinvention, or retreat, one truth remains. Once you've lived under the world's microscope, it's impossible to step completely out of the frame. The Meghan and Harry journey has been nothing short of a royal roller coaster, filled with glittering highs, shocking lows, and controversies that gripped the world. From Harry's troubled younger days marked by wild parties and drug use, to the whirlwind romance with Meghan, the couple's story has played out under the harsh glare of the spotlight. Meghan's arrival promised a fresh chapter for the monarchy, but instead, it sparked a cultural clash, tradition versus modernity, press versus privacy, and family loyalty versus personal freedom. The media frenzy, the strained royal ties, and the couple's explosive revelations turn their lives into a global soap opera. Now, far from the palaces and protocols, they stand as a symbol of breaking away from an institution that has stood for centuries. To their supporters, they are trailblazers, choosing love, mental health, and independence over duty. To their critics, they are rebels who abandoned responsibility for fame. But love them or hate them, Meghan and Harry have achieved what few royals dare, to take control of their own narrative. And as the curtain falls on this chapter, one truth remains. The story of Meghan and Harry isn't just about royalty. It's about the price of freedom in a world where the crown is heavier than it looks. The end, or perhaps just another beginning.